In early January 2026, the United States carried out a military strike against Venezuela. U.S. forces hit locations in and around Caracas and then claimed they had captured Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife. The U.S. government says it took Maduro from Venezuela and brought him to the United States, where he now faces legal charges. This surprise action shocked the world because it was a direct attack on a sovereign country and the removal of its head of state. The U.S. attack was a complex military operation involving many fighters, helicopters, drones, and special forces. Elite U.S. troops entered Venezuela, fought with Maduro's guards, and removed Maduro and his wife from power. U.S. officials said the mission was planned over many months and aimed to be quick to reduce casualties. The operation involved advanced equipment and coordination of air power over Caracas. U.S. officials later held press briefings explaining some details of how the mission succeeded. The United States government says it attacked Venezuela for several official reasons. U.S. leaders have accused Maduro of strong-arming power, suppressing elections, and supporting drug trafficking that affects the United States. They have also said Maduro's government is corrupt and has harmed Venezuelan people. U.S. leaders argue that removing him was necessary for regional security, law enforcement, and the rule of law. U.S. officials describe the action not as a war, but as a law enforcement and security operation aimed at drug and organized crime. Before the attack, tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela had grown for years. Venezuela had been under U.S. sanctions, and the U.S. had cut diplomatic ties with Maduro's government. The two countries disagreed over elections and democratic legitimacy in Venezuela. The U.S. saw Venezuela's alliance with countries like Russia, China, Iran, and Cuba as a threat to U.S. interests. This long conflict contributed to the decision to act directly. In Venezuela, the attack caused fighting and explosions, especially around military bases in Caracas. Reports say many people, including military members and civilians, were killed or wounded during the strike. The country was thrown into uncertainty as power structures changed quickly. High-ranking Venezuelan officials were either captured, left the country, or had to find new roles in the aftermath. Venezuelans saw both fear and confusion in cities hit by the strikes. After his capture, Nicolás Maduro and his wife were taken to the United States. They have appeared in U.S. court on drug trafficking and related charges. In U.S. legal filings, the government accuses them of involvement in narcotics distribution and criminal activity. Maduro's legal defense argues the process is illegal and violates international law. The U.S. insists its courts have the right to try these charges. Venezuela's government called the attack an illegal act of aggression and a violation of sovereignty. They say the capture of Maduro was a forced robbery of their head of state and not a lawful arrest. Venezuelan leaders described U.S. actions as a coup attempt and said it undermines international law and the United Nations framework. Many Venezuelans protested on the streets, and the country remained tense. After the attack, Venezuela's vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, was named interim president by the remaining government and courts inside Venezuela. However, her authority is contested, and the situation is unstable. The U.S. president stated that the United States might help manage Venezuelan affairs until a transition to elections could be made. This raised more questions about sovereignty and control. The world reacted strongly. Many countries condemned the U.S. action as a violation of international law and sovereignty. Nations such as Russia, China, Cuba, Mexico, and Brazil criticized the U.S. for attacking an independent state without United Nations permission. Some called for peaceful solutions rather than force. A few leaders supported the removal of Maduro, but expressed concern about the methods used. Many international legal experts say the U.S. attack violated the United Nations Charter, which prohibits one country from using force against another without clear self-defense or UN approval. They argue that capturing a head of state during a military action without a UN mandate sets a dangerous global precedent. This has raised fears that similar actions might occur elsewhere, weakening international law norms. Venezuela has some of the largest oil reserves in the world, and control of these resources was widely seen as part of the conflict. After Maduro's capture, U.S. leaders spoke about involving U.S. oil companies to rebuild and manage Venezuela's oil production. This move is seen by many analysts as a key economic motivation and a shift in global energy dynamics. Control of oil makes Venezuela strategically important to major powers. The attack has increased instability in Latin America. Some countries fear a refugee crisis, border tensions, and economic disruption. Others worry that U.S. military action could encourage similar interventions in the future. Analysts call Venezuela a potential powder keg, where armed groups and political factions could escalate violence. Peace and stability are uncertain in the coming months and years. For ordinary Venezuelans, the situation means insecurity, possible shortages, and fear of renewed conflict. Many families are already displaced or struggling due to years of economic collapse. In the U.S. and world, opinions are divided. Some support the aim to remove Maduro, while many others say the method undermines global peace. The long-term outcome depends on political negotiations, global diplomacy, and how Venezuelans themselves shape their future.